Hello, everyone, and welcome to Up the Turnpike, your source for New York Islanders content, not only here on YouTube, but also on Patreon. That's patreon.com/uptheturnpike. We do 2 podcasts a week there on Patreon, where it's half us leading discussion, half you leading discussion. You tell us what you want to talk about twice a week. Plus, Friday 6-pack, live chats during the season, game recaps, and a live Discord where we just talk. Well, I guess live is inherently within a Discord, but it's a Discord channel for all of our patrons where there's something going on all the time. That's patreon.com/uptheturnpike. Anyway, so on today's video, we're doing another series in our pre-draft sessions here. We are looking back at the last 5 Islanders draft classes to see who we've got, a refresher on who we drafted, really, who we got in that draft class and what they're doing where and what they're doing now. We've already done the 2023 draft class. I did the 2022 one yesterday. That means we're doing the 2021 draft class today. Now, this is the first post-COVID draft class, if you will. I understand 2020 was technically the first post-COVID one because it's the one that started up after the slowdown or shutdown or whatever you want to call it, because it would happen in October, the draft was. This was the first regularly scheduled draft, right? So that's why I'm saying it's the first post-COVID one, if you will. Now, in that draft class, we didn't make a first round pick because we never do. But anyways, we took in the second round, remember his name, Aatu. In the third round, goalie Tristan Lennox. In the fourth round, center Cameron Berg. Fifth round, Finnish Flash, Eten Lucas. It's not really his name. I just threw that out there. Another Finnish player, defenseman, left-handed defenseman, Alexi Malin, and right-handed Czech defenseman, Thomas Mahu. And we'll get to each and every one of those guys sequentially, one by one, as we go through this discussion, if you will. Just catch up, look back, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, so the first player we're looking at is Aatu. Now, I'll flip it to my handy dandy graphs. Those of you who've been watching the last ones will understand the graph real quick here. Let me just bring it up. There we go. So for you who may not have seen it before, go back to the very first one. That's the 2023 Lookback, where I explain this a little bit better in terms of what the numbers mean. But I'll still do a decent enough explanation here where you might not necessarily have to go back, but do it anyways. Okay, so what we're looking at here, let me actually just put up Aatu's card, is Aatu here. I selected his name in my dropdown of all of the available prospects that I follow specifically. Not everyone follows the same prospects. And on the right here, this big graph, that's the important part. What we're seeing here is the blue line is what a first-line player, typically the growth rate of a first-line player based off of NHLE year over year from their draft year. This is here, their draft year, all the way to their draft plus 12. So by the time they're outside of their peak, if you will. Red line is what a second-line player. This is for forwards, by the way, but we're still going to use defenseman in this because there's not a better one. For forwards, second-line forward is what we're looking at in terms of growth rate. And third line players, again, forward is what we're looking here in the yellow line. Now, the green line is the player we're specifically looking at. And in this case, it's Aatu. Now, you see here, Aatu had the really good pre-draft year, didn't have a great draft year. We all know the story. We don't have to rehash it. We don't have to relitigate it. You're all very well aware of what happened. We've spoken about it a million times. If you want, you can go back to my old channel. It's still open, but I don't post new videos there. And I do a whole dissection that's deckhands. You can go and see the old Aatu videos if you need a refresher. But anyways, I'm not going to go through that. Anyways, and then he has a really, really good year, right? He goes off. We all remember that very well. For Ukraine, has a great year. Plays first-line type of talent here, which leads the Vancouver Canucks to go oh, really? Heck yeah, we can do that, which is how we get Bo Horvat. Thank you very much, Aatu. Obviously doesn't have that great of a year last year. We can look at his numbers specifically when it comes to his in the AHL. If I can type properly, there we go. Aatu there. I don't want to bring up the elite prospect page. This is way too many ads, and it slows down my entire computer. Apparently, I don't have a good computer. Anyway, so his first year in the AHL, right? He comes over and plays a little bit for us. 2 games at the end of the season, doesn't score a point. He does eventually score one in the playoffs that year. This is the draft plus 1 year, right? That's this one right here. That's what we're seeing, that the 2 games played at the AHL level plus the 1 in the playoffs that I was talking about, or 2. I forget exactly how many. Doesn't matter. And then in the following year, 22-23, plays 27 games for us, scores 15 points, 7 goals, 8 assists. That's the slowdown we saw, right? We still ended up trading him because you're taking your first full year in the pros. I mentioned it in the last video. The jump from the Finnish league or any league really into the AHL is quite a big jump, specifically when it comes to teenagers or young men, like 20-year-old guys like Aatu. The jump is quite big. The ice is a bit smaller, so on and so forth. So a slowdown is to be expected. And that's what we saw. That was fine. We still managed to trade him, right? Sent him to Vancouver in the Bohorvat trade. They played him for 25 games. He was about as productive. Yeah, 12 points in 25 games is a little bit of a slowdown, but not too much. And then this year he does really, really well. 52 points, 18 goals in 72 games for Abbotsford. You see the graph here, the jump up. He's above a third line player. Not where he was as a first line player. It's just not. But he's trending towards a second line center, by the way. A center. And for some reason, Vancouver doesn't call him up at all whatsoever. I keep seeing stuff. T is the one that keeps throwing it to me of like Vancouver fans just crapping on him effectively. Just like, oh, well, he's not. Well, what a bad trade it was for us. We will gladly take him back. I will gladly take Aatu back for pennies on the dollar. Thank you very much. But here's a development for Aatu, which is really what we're interested in here. Just seeing how he's doing. He's still doing pretty well, on track to make the NHL. I'm not going to say we won the trade because I don't like speaking in this kind of zero-sum game when it comes to trades. But I think we did well in this trade, and I'm sure you agree. All right. For the 3rd round pick, we go to goalie Tristan Lennox. Now, I had previously rigged up my NHLE model to look at goalies, but the more I used it, the more skewy it all got. And it's just, again, goalies are complete voodoo. So we're not going to look at the model for goalies because it doesn't do a good job. It barely does a good job with defensemen, and it does a horrendous job with goalies. So we're just going to look at how he did last year. Let's just look at his stats here real quick on HockeyDB, and then I'll explain a little bit more here. So when we look at Tristan Lennox, I'm going to bring it up. Thank you, HockeyDB, for the bajillion ads. All these sites have them. They got to make money somehow, I suppose. Okay, so we draft him in 2021. At the end, they don't play right in 21 because we draft him in 2021. There's no season, really, right? Doesn't play. But in the previous year for Saginaw, he has a 3.63 and an 8.76. OHL numbers, take that with a grain of salt. His first draft year for Saginaw, again, they're garbage, by the way. Saginaw was not good. 3.20 and an 8.88. Better numbers, but again, Saginaw was awful. Look at that record, 7-20. He lost 20 games, won only 7, but still improved his goals against average by 0.43 and his save percentage by a decent clip. That's pretty good. They were a bit better than next year, right? He won 25 games, lost 15, a bit better. Save percentage goes down again by 0.5 or 0.05, sorry. Save percentage stays the same. So decent numbers there. The thing with Lennox is that he was so often just left on his own. So many odd man rush, and he'd still pull out a save. Like there's a good foundation of an athletic goalie there. And he's not small either. Like we're talking about a guy who's 6'4", 196. He's not a small goalie. Did pretty well at the OHL. Last year he went pro. Okay? So he goes pro for the Worcester Railers. That's where he spent his entire year, played 13 games, not a full season. You'll see there's a bunch of goalie rotation there in Worcester. 294 goals against average and a 909 save percentage. Better numbers. Not a great record, but not a bad record either. 5-6-2 throughout the year for Worcester in his 13 games. It's the numbers that keep shrinking that really are impressing me quite a bit. I'm not going to go out and say like Don't worry about Ilya Sorokin. We got Tristan Lennox. We're good. It's that there might be something there. Maybe. It's the ECHL, of course. I'd like to see this at the AHL level, which I'm not sure we will see. We might see a few games, but the goalie rotation for the Islanders is going to be weird. The New York ones, that is. Or sorry, the Bridgeport ones, that is going to be weird because you got Hoiberg now. You got Henrik Tikkanen. We don't know what we're doing Skarek yet. It's going to be a weird kind of situation going on between the AHL and the ECHL. But with Lennox, we drafted a decent goalie, didn't play a ton, but was still a good goalie for Worcester. Like the numbers relative to the NHL don't look great, but his goals against average was the second lowest in the league, right? Even Henrik Tikkanen didn't have the same goals against average as a 322. Ken Appleby only played 2 games, though, but a 301. Still, even the low sample size, the numbers weren't good. And his save percentage at 909, I believe, was the 3rd best in the team. It was. You had Spignoli, who played once. You had Ken Appleby, who played twice. So I'm not even going to count those, really. And then it was John Muse, who played 30 games and a 911. And then Tristan Lennox, 909. Again, Henrik Tikkanen not there. And he's good. Henrik Tikkanen's a good goalie. 892, 322. But look at the number of goalies they played. That was just this year. That's just 23-24. Look at the number of goalies they played over in Worcester. Rotation. Wild. It was a wild time in nets for the Worcester Railers this year. But Tristan Lennox did pretty well. I like the growth from Tristan Lennox. I'd like to see more growth, obviously. But it's trending in an... If we had to draw a graph, the graph would be going up just ever so steadily. So good job, Tristan Lennox, this year, my dude. From there, we go to Cameron Berg, who was drafted in the 4th round from the USHL for the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Played for Omaha, Nebraska in the NCAA for a couple of years. This year went over to his, I guess, the team that he grew up watching, which is the North Dakota, or UND. I think it's the Fighting Hawks. I think is what they're called. The NCAA names always screw me up. So Cameron Berg, let's bring up his card here. So it starts off decent when it comes to his draft year. Looks like he's got some good numbers. Again, USHL numbers, so a bit inflated because the quality of competition isn't great. And then he goes to the NCAA. We expect a fall. From the USHL to the NCAA is quite a bit of a jump. Not a huge jump, but a jump nonetheless. And he stays kind of like stale at his tenure in Omaha. Does the kind of same, not a whole lot movement there. He's okay. Plays on the power play, plays on the penalty kill, plays down the middle. Decent player, but just kind of flat lines, if you will. And then he goes to UND, which is obviously a better program, but has top 6 power play, really kind of pushes what is a better program. So he's getting better minutes with better players. And obviously the numbers go up. His NHLE jumps from 10.3 that you can see here, if you squint, to 14.7. I just don't want to zoom in anywhere. And then it trends upwards. He's not yet a 3rd-line player, it seems. I believe if he ever hits the NHL, that's what he would do. But just take a look at some of his comparisons. I've built this into my tool here where I look at every player's NHLE and I compare them to other Islanders prospects that were drafted within the 2000s. Because before that, whatever, it's not even the same game anymore, really. He's kind of like a Colin Adams and a Jake Pavanka. Guys who made it pro, right? Both Colin Adams and Jake Pavanka made it pro, but they didn't make it above the AHL level. Both had okay times at the AHL level, but it really didn't stick out from there. They were never going to go pro. Obviously, the fact that he ranks kind of close, if I go back to Petteri Nokalainen, right? That's the gold comparison. That's what he's closest to, which if I go to the other graph here, you can see the red line here is Petteri Nokalainen, and the blue line is Cameron Berg. He's heading close to a Nokalainen. And Nokalainen, as we can see here, stuck in the NHL. Didn't put up a crap ton of points, right? I think his most productive year was probably this one here for the Ducks, where he scores 11 points in 50 games. But he makes the NHL. Makes it. So maybe he could make it if he follows in that mold type of. I don't think he's a Petteri Nokalainen 1-for-1 swap, but it seems that he's trending in that direction. So something to look forward to there. He's going to be playing another year for UND this year, and then I would imagine he signs his deal with the Islanders, kind of like what Alex Jeffries did for the Isles. From Cameron Berg, I realize we're going a little long here. From Cameron Berg, Eten Lucas, the Finnish Hammer. I keep giving him different names. Eten Lucas, if I go here, I love Eten Lucas's game, but it did fall off quite a bit this year as he went to the pros. Like, it goes up and up and up as he's playing in Finland. He was putting up points when he was playing for HPK. He's playing on their top line for HPK, which was a pro team in the top league in Finland, playing on their top line. He's not a top line player even at that level, but he adds an element to a top line that some teams are looking for. He adds that physical. Cal Clutterbuck is a name that has been thrown around with him a lot, and aptly so. He's just a big body who throws it around. Well, he knows what he's doing. He's not like dangerous out there. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to hit. He knows how to hit well, and he's not shy to do so. He is not shy to do it. So the points aren't going to be there, which doesn't do him any justice when it comes to something like NHLE. It just doesn't. He didn't score a lot of points for Bridgeport this year. He did not stand out on the score sheet, but he did play quite a bit. He's going to have a bigger role this year, I would imagine. Another year in the league where it slows down a little bit more, where his physical presence can be felt even more. I like this kid's game. I think he could play at the NHL level. The points don't say he can, but there's more to making the NHL than just points. I think you'll agree with me on that. Okay, next from Lucas, we go to Alexi Malin, another Finnish prospect, played for and still plays for JYP over in the top league in Finland. If I go here to my man, Alexi Malin, now remember defenseman, but this is a more offensive-minded defenseman. He should be putting up points. He just doesn't. The green line is not moving up. If anything, it's just kind of flatlining, which isn't great. To be fair to him, he missed most of the year this season. He played 15 games for JYP, so he didn't really do much. And JYP, not a very good team. Not a very good team. So even if he did play, I wouldn't expect him to do a whole lot. But I still want to see him play. Obviously, you want to see this guy play. But if you caught a glimpse of the comparables here, gold level comparable, Ben Maragis never made the NHL, never really he exited college, but under mysterious circumstances, it seems. Still haven't figured out what the heck happened there. It seems like it was nothing. It's just kind of like done here, but I find that hard to believe. And then Sebastian Aho. He doesn't fall nearly as much as Sebastian Aho, but I see the comparison. He's a really good skater, usually. He's fast. He's offensive minded, but I need to see more from him. The fact that he missed this year entirely through injury, mainly 15 games, I'm hoping doesn't set him back, but this was supposed to be a big year for him. He was supposed to play in the top 4 for JYP, and then, misses the entire season pretty much in terms of injury. That's a bad time to take a big injury in his career. Hopefully he bounces back, and he bounces back well, and we see him soon, or we will next year, but just that he's at his best yet again. All right, last prospect is Thomas Mahu, the right-handed defenseman from Czechia. It has been playing in the USHL for the last couple of years, even won a USHL championship 2 years ago. Not necessarily an offensive defenseman. Not at all. He is a defensive defenseman. The points are not there. You're going to see this line and you're going to be like, oof, 7th rounders be 7th rounders, huh? Sure. But again, he doesn't score points. That's not his thing. He's there to shut teams down, close gaps, which he does relatively well. We'll see more from him this year as he heads to Providence. I'm sure Lou Lamorello had something to do with that. I don't know what happened, but he was supposed to go to Colorado College, and that fell through last year, and now he's going to Providence this year. I'm not sure what happened there, but he's going to Providence. Lou must be happy. I can't wait to see him more frequently because catching USHL games is kind of hard sometimes. But from what I saw, he still needs to work on his skating quite a bit. There's not necessarily some explosiveness there. Even if he's only supposed to be a shutdown D, you still want some. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing him with Providence, to see the growth in his game, and to see where he can go and where he can take it from there. That's your 2022 draft look back. If I bring it up one more time here as I'm trying to click buttons unsuccessfully, my God. Here are all your draft picks for 2022. Aatu, unfortunately, no longer on the team as we sent him to Vancouver, but that was a good trade for us. Lennox, trending in the right direction. Cameron Berg, interesting step forward with UND. Lucas, no, I think he makes the NHL as a fourth liner at some point. Maybe not with us, maybe. Malin, need to see more, but he missed the year through injury. And Mahu, looking forward to seeing him over in Providence. That is your 2022 look back. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Happy draft weekend as it's coming up. And thank you, thank you, thank you.